This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.
This episode is sponsored by Monkey Stuff. Monkey Stuff makes things for makers. We're inspired every day by the craft and creativity of makers, and design and manufacture tools and accessories to try to make your making life a bit more delightful. Our products are designed in California, by makers and for makers, and manufactured in the USA. Check out our line of pottery accessories and tools at monkeystuff.com. Follow us on Instagram to see what we're up to in our studios, and keep on making great things.
This episode is brought to you by Cornell Studio Supply, located in the Gem City of Dayton, Ohio. Find all your pottery and ceramic sculpture equipment and supplies with the best customer service and world-class workshops. Join us January 16th through the 18th, 2026 for a colored clay and material inclusion workshop with Chris Alvashir and Jillian Park. Visit CornellStudioSupply.com to sign up. Cornell Studio Supply, owned and operated for potters by potters.
Hello, my name is Kathy King, and welcome to the For Flux Sake podcast. I'm coming to you from the Harvard Ceramics program in our fair city, Allston, Massachusetts. I'm here with Rose and Matt Katz of the world-famous Ceramic Materials Workshop, and they are ready to answer your burning questions about clay and glaze. Well, hello, Matt and Rose.
Hey, Kathy.
What's up, Kathy?
Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing this fine day?
I'm full of rage.
Ooh.
I got the rages.
Oh, my God. All right. All right. Everybody find your buddy. Get in line because we're going to
Matt's
walk.
usually my buddy, and he's angry.
We're going to walk very
Your
calmly
buddy's the threat.
and board the bus to Materials Corner once again today.
Quick, Rose, grab a basset hound. You need somebody to snuggle with.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Everyone should grab a basset hound.
Yeah,
That just goes without saying. So, Matt, what is up? I don't even know what you're gonna scoop upon us.
This is something that you guys, I really value information. I value our relationship. And this is something that has made me not happy for a long time, because this is something that I have known about. This is something that I have tried to deal with. This is something I have been lied to about. And I could not talk about it because there was no direct proof. And now there is direct proof. So I am going to read everyone a press release. Because, why I couldn't talk about it is because this involves one company selling products that were not what they were advertised as. That was the allegations. Allegedly, says our lawyers. And that was part of the problem of we're not journalists per se. And so we could not report on this because it was just allegations. And this goes, well, let me read the press release, and then I will tell my history with this experience. This is from masoncolor.com, which, if you know Mason is the manufacturer of ceramic stains in the United States. And it's an interesting thing, as people that travel the world to talk about glazes, people think that stains, quote unquote, are Mason stains, and that is not true. Mason is a manufacturer of ceramic stains, but also other coloring materials in the United States. So when we say Mason stain, we are talking about a particular company. And the thing about Mason stains is that they are a very high quality product. I can't say that they're the best in the world. There are stains in Europe that are very high quality. There are other stains. But here in the US, we use stains from Mason, and they are a high quality product, but they are expensive. It is a manufactured product, which means it does cost you a lot of money. But we use stains. Rose's entire time in designing glaze tiles was in stains.
Yep, stains were my friend.
Still are.
Yeah,
Love
they
stains.
still are.
They're great, but it is true. They are expensive. And because of that, there were allegations of chicanery. So I'm going to read to you this, and you can read this on Mason's website. And this is a press release. It doesn't have a date on it, but it came to our attention that this had been posted so quote, "We have become aware that a certain company has been providing confusing, false, and misleading references to Mason Color and its products on its website and in its marketing information. To be clear, Mason Color does not conduct business with or have any association with the U.S. Pigment Corporation. Mason Color has never authorized or licensed U.S. Pigments to sell or distribute its products. Simply put, U.S. Pigment does not sell Mason Color products and has no authority to do so. Any statements to the contrary are simply misleading and false. If you believe that you are purchasing Mason Color products from U.S. Pigments, that is not true." That is the completion of their press release. So let's be clear. Everything I say out from here on out is based on the fact that Mason, the manufacturer, has publicly announced that they do not have and has never had a relationship with the ceramic supply company U.S. Pigments. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, those are the facts. Let's talk about the history, because I have known about this for years. One of my students from Alfred University, Lydia Johnson, had come to me years ago and said, "Hey, I bought a bunch of stains from U.S. Pigments that were listed as Mason stains, and the colors, when I fire them, are coming out really badly." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. And if you went to U.S. Pigments websites, they would list that they are selling Mason stains." And you can go check out Lydia's social media. She did a lot of work to really dial in that these are not official Mason products. Or at least the quality that she was getting was quite poor. They would not survive the firing. They would change color. They would be inconsistent. And it was ruining her work. She makes highly stylized work using a lot of slip inlays. Very beautiful work. You should check out her work. And so this was very upsetting to her because she was being sold a product by U.S. Pigments that was advertised as Mason stains. And she was able to prove within her perspective that these were not authentic Mason stains. I can say now that at one point at NCECA, I spoke with the owners of U.S. Pigments about this accusation, and they said to me, "This is untrue. These are Mason stains." Now, from a legal perspective, I cannot call these words a lie. But when you take what Lydia had discovered and what Mason has now published, that was not the truth. Let's just put it that way. Not the truth. So they said this to my face. This is not a secondhand conversation. I outright asked them about this, and they told me what is not the verifiable truth. Now, other people have made this discovery, and it has sort of been out in the community for a long time, that in fact, the products being sold as Mason stains are not authentic Mason stains. Now, honestly, I'm sure people can go and ask the people at U.S. Pigments their justification for this. But what I would believe is that they are buying products that are of a cheaper price than Mason and then using the Mason moniker to sell these products to an unsuspecting customer base. And they should be ashamed of themselves. This is a disreputable practice. And honestly, it's disgusting for people to treat the ceramic community as fools so that you can make a buck. And I am actually out. Like, you guys hear me on the show all the time. Like, you hear me get loud, and I've got my opinions and all this. This is one that has made me angry for years, but I have been unable to speak of it because Mason had not made a contradictory statement. But Mason has now officially called out U.S. Pigments for selling a product under the name of Mason stain that is not a Mason stain. Now, because of this, we don't use US pigment products. And actually, funnily enough, we actually did bite the bullet and buy a bunch of US pigment stains to test this ourselves and to call it out. And we had not got around to it. And you guys, let me be clear. They know who we are. And so we actually had the stains purchased by a third party and shipped to a different location and sent to us just to prove that they wouldn't try to slip us something. So they didn't know it was going to us. And we haven't had a chance to test them. Now we spent a ton of money that now it's Mason's already called out. So now I've just got a bunch of bad stains. But people give Rose and I at CMW a hard time because they think, oh, we're too opinionated. We're trying to prove something. Let's be clear.
Wait,
At
they
CMW,
say that about me?
Oh, yeah.
Not you. He's just grouping
Me.
you
They
in.
say it about me. You got dragged along with me. But to be clear, our agenda is education. Rose and I have no agenda in this community besides education. We want everyone to be as smart as possible, have the best information possible so that you have the best result. You disagree with some of the things I say conceptually, I don't care because I'm right. But
Okay.
But when there are companies out there who are selling us materials and they are outright being deceptive and they are outright intentionally, knowingly selling subpar products. And believe me, you guys, when I was in Australia recently, I had someone tell me that they got these great cheap stains from the US and they bought them because they were so cheap because there's no stain supply in Australia except through the supply stores that use Mason. And they were so thrilled. And I said, oh, where'd you get them from? To which the conversation turned very dark because yes, they had got them because they were so cheap, but they are cheap for a reason. And I would now call this a disreputable practice. And I am happy that it is out there. I think that the community can do what they wish with their dollars, but I encourage everyone to speak with their dollars because they are hurting your process. They are making it in a way that they are making it clear that they do not care about your result as long as they get your dollar. And, as I said, at CMW, our agenda is to care about your results, to get you a better ceramic experience, to get more success out of your kilns. And this is what we want. And we want everyone to be better, and we want everyone to do the best that they can. And so, all of that said, please, you guys, you have just watched me alienate retail companies that we need as sponsors.
I was going to look at it another way, like on the flip side of that. So then any of our beloved sponsors, we've looked inside the closets, the skeletons have been revealed or, peered under the bed skirt. It's like we're happy to work with the people that we work with because we all speak the truth. So that's that.
But we also need all of your support to keep speaking the truth. So please support us on Patreon. Tell your local reputable ceramic supply companies that they should support us. Tell your kiln companies, your glaze companies, everybody to support what we do, because there's a reason why we are such a big community and that why this show is so popular, because we don't care that
just in general.
We only care about
yeah, just in general. Yeah.
No, we don't care about them. We care about you, and they should care about you too. And that's what we really want to get to. And I almost hate that I feel like I have to apologize for not telling everyone this publicly a long time ago when I knew it, but because we couldn't say anything until Mason called them out.
Well, let's lift our spirits, shall we? And
Please.
Go to a question from one of our fantastic listeners. This one comes from Luke from Erie, I'm guessing Pennsylvania. And Luke asks, if I understood your hard panning answer, kaolin in the correct amount prevents it in a glaze. What about porcelain casting slips? Both cone 6 and 10 bodies hard pan. Is it to be expected?
great question.
I know.
Mhm.
That's a good
No.
No. Oh, okay. Well, that was easy. Okay. Our next question comes from.
Wait a second. That's when Matt was away. Let's let him talk.
No, it is a fantastic question because, we have to go back to, my favorite quote from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is, what also floats in water? Rocks, churches, lead. But of course, rocks don't float, right? That's the whole thing, is just the knowledge that rocks don't float. But we now face this thing that our raw materials are rocks. Like all the things that we deal with are teeny tiny little rocks. So how do they stay? Teeny tiny little rocks. No matter how tiny those rocks are, they don't float. Their density is greater than that of water. And so now we face this problem of that our raw materials should stay suspended. And as Luke is referring to, this generally comes from the material kaolin, that kaolin makes our suspensions non-Newtonian, that they're not responding to laws of physics. So all those rocks stay floating. Well, how can you overcome that? There's a couple of ways to do that. Some materials just don't like to stay suspended. We've talked about how sodium can be a problem. But boy, there's a really easy way to get your materials to hard pan, which is put in too much water. Having too much water in that suspension will keep your glaze from staying suspended. Why? Because if there's more water between the particle, or more water in the suspension, then there's more space between the particles. And I always describe it like when you're at the big concert and there's the beach ball going around. Well, where the crowd is tightly packed, that beach ball will stay up. But when it gets to the back of the crowd where people want some air and there's spaces between them, it can easily hit the ground because there just aren't those particles to keep it up. And I see this not uncommonly in commercial casting slips, where in fact those casting slips will hard pan really hard.
So you're saying, Luke, to stay closer to the mosh pits.
Stay in the mosh. That's Rose's. Rose has on her Doc Martens, and Rose has got the elbows out and the swing. You guys, Rose was such a punk rock kid. It's not even funny.
I bet. Cool.
Yes, you need to stay in the mosh pit, because if you have too much water in that casting slip, it will not stay suspended. Now, we slip cast all the time. That's all how we make everything, is with casting slip. And you do get a little bit of things that'll settle, at the bottom if you make a large batch and you don't keep it constantly agitated, but things should stay in suspension. But whenever I see it with the commercial ones, you know what they're doing? They're putting in a lot of water into that casting slip batch, because selling water saves them money.
What? No.
Because water is essentially free, and all of those raw materials will cost them money. And so
Darvan.
Darvan's expensive. Darvan's the dispersant we use, Dispex for international friends. And so they will oftentimes put in a lot more water. So how much more water? I don't know. I've seen very high amounts. But to be clear, a plastic clay body will have about 25% water. When I make a casting slip, I just made one this morning, I add 40% water and then the dispersant, the Darvan. But I have seen 60% water in commercial casting slips. Does it turn clay from a plastic into a liquid? Sure. Does it make it hard pan? Oh, yeah. And here's a situation where I can't call out any particular company, but I have certainly seen a company whose casting slip, whenever I have come across it, has massive amounts of water and hard pans really bad, because they make more money shipping you water than shipping you material. There's not a great solution. Some people tell you to put a bunch of Epsom salts in there. It's not a great answer.
No,
it is a bad answer. The real answer is make your own casting slip. We teach about making clay bodies all the time. And one of the hard things is about making clay bodies is you need equipment to make those plastic clays. Man, if you are a slip caster, you can make your casting slip with a drill and a bucket. That is all that you need. So if you are a slip caster, make your own casting slip. You'll then be in control of your quality. But if it's the commercial ones, you can try to decant some of that water. I am not a fan of decanting, whether it's glazes or clays. But yeah, if it's hard panning, there is way too much water. Clay body should be 50% kaolin. That is easy enough to keep things suspended. But if it's hard panning, too much water. I bet if you measure that water content, it's going to be 50, 60, maybe even higher percentages.
Well, oh my. Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online source for research and inspiration, featuring photos of thousands of objects made by over 800 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required. To find out more, visit www.rosenfieldcollection.com.
Glazes don't make sense, but that's why Rose and I are here at ceramicmaterialsworkshop.com, helping translate glazes for real ceramicists like you. So join us for our brand new class starting October 1st. It's for everyone from beginners to masters. We clear up all the mysteries of glazes to make them work for you. Join us at ceramicmaterialsworkshop.com for making glazes make sense.
All right. Okay.
I'm sassy today, you guys. I got nothing left to
Adequate.
I got
And
nothing
that
left to
was
hide. I don't care.
Answered, Luke. That was your answer just now. All right. Let's move on to, I'm so excited to have an audio question. People, come on. You have phones. You can hit record and ask your question. All right. Nick from North Carolina has a question about checking temperature in our kiln.
Hey, for Flux Sake, this is Nick from North Carolina. Based on your research of the shrinkage rates of different commercial clay bodies, were there any that had a steep enough rate of shrinkage change that you'd be able to throw a bar in the firing and measure the shrinkage as a way of telling temperature or heat work, similar like is done for temp checks, but without paying for temp checks or the equipment needed to read those reliably? Thanks. Bye.
It's a good question.
It's a great question. You know, the first thing, though, that we have to talk about is he was saying the equipment needed to read temp checks. And for those of you who haven't paid attention, temp checks are a little disc that you buy, you know, that they read temperature inside the kiln by shrinking a particular amount. And the temp checks themselves are not cheap, but the thing that makes most people like panic is that the device they sell to read temp checks costs $1,000 US.
Yes.
To be clear, you do not need the $1,000 piece of equipment. Go to your local hardware store and buy a high quality digital caliper that'll cost you $20. That is what you need to read the temperature. So you don't need that thing. The question in of itself is an interesting one. Could you use your clay body to do that? Yes. Yes, you could.
Like how? I'm not following.
Well, it's so temp checks are just shrinking at the peak temperature. It's not like cones where it's going to melt like the self-supporting cones. But I mean, in theory, it could probably work, but you're going to have to go through a lot of clay bodies to figure that out.
Right. This is
like take all our research and like try every single one of them.
Yeah, that's inherently the problem of the reason why we can talk about the things we talk about with clay bodies is we've done these crazy firing curves. So for those of you who haven't checked out, you definitely should check out our commercial clay body profiling project on our website, where we have taken clays that have been sent to us by our students and we literally fire them at every single temperature. So we'll make like 40 samples and we'll do 40 different firings at every single temperature. And then we can track how the clay body changes and evolves as temperature goes up. And so it gives us this amazing perspective that honestly, a lot of clay companies don't even have as to what their products are doing, when they're well fired, when they're under fired, what is shrinkage patterns doing. And we found some fascinating things. I was just talking with a client about this the other day where there's a crazy thing that goes on of a lot of clay companies will advertise their clay bodies as being vitrified, but having very low shrinkage. Yeah, actually, we found out that that's not what the truth is. What is going on is the clay body vitrified? Yes, but then they're instructing people to fire past the vitrification point. So what will happen is the body's actually vitrified at cone 5, but they'll call it a cone 10 clay body. What happens between cone 5 and 10 is that the clay bloats. And bloating is negative shrinkage. So it sort of unshrinks. And so it looks like, oh, it's a porcelain with 10% shrinkage. I totally want that instead of this porcelain with 18% shrinkage because I want less shrinkage. Well, yeah, they're doing it because they're making it bloat, which is like literally the worst thing you possibly could do. And so trying to, having that data is a big deal. But you could use your own clay body and do absorption testing on it. And I wouldn't, the shrinkage I wouldn't even look at. Shrinkage is hard to measure accurately. A lot of people have their perspective on how to do it, but actually getting a high quality shrinkage measurement, we actually just last year completely redesigned our sample prep to get a more accurate shrinkage documentation, because we weren't even happy with what we had all the time. And so we redesigned our forms that we're testing these clay bodies in. And so absorption becomes a much better value, and that's an easy test to do. And we've got a YouTube video with Rose showing how to do absorption testing on your clay body. So if you know your clay is supposed to be at a certain absorption rate at a certain temperature, and you put a little chunk in your kiln and then you do an absorption test, you'll know, is it under fired or over fired for what that body needs to be. You would be better off if you did something like a rudimentary firing curve where you took your clay and fired it to cone 8 and another sample to cone 9, another sample to cone 10, and another sample to cone 11, so that you had a window as to like what it's doing at those different temperatures. But like you totally could. But it really helps have a reference. That's the harder part. Even with temp checks, like they come with a reference, like this sheet that tells you what they should be doing at a certain temperature, and you have to build that up. And so, can you do it? Yes. Is it a ton of work? Totally. It's a lot of work. And that's the hard part. And that's where Kathy turns off. I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, no, that sounded like way too much work. Okay. All right. So let's go to a third question. How exciting. Yay. How exciting.
Oh gosh.
We have a question from Frank from Burlington, Wisconsin. And Frank is asking about bisque temperature for commercial products.
Hello, Kathy, Rose, Matt, and producer Ben. Frank Korb here from Korb Pottery in Burlington, Wisconsin, my fair city, little tiny town. Anyways, my wife Julie and I have been potters now for all of 3 years. I've been a painter and an artist for 35 plus, and she a pharmacist. I wish I had a better question. When we bisque our ware, Laguna B Mix, Scut 818 kiln, we've been bisquing at 07. We're using Amico, Mako, Coyote, store-bought glazes. Is there a best bisque cone to fire at 08, 09? What are your thoughts? And I just gotta say, I working in the studio during the daytime, and I haven't laughed so hard. You guys are a hoot. So thanks so much for all of your wisdom and humor. I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Aw, thank you, Frank. That's so sweet.
Yay!
An official hoot. That's a hoot. I love it.
Been called worse, that is for sure. So
she's been called a hoot in worse ways too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So first thing I think of is what the industry of paint your own pottery. What do they bisque to?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't
Thank you.
know.
Thank you.
We don't get a ton of outreach from the paint your own places, and that is a fantastic question because they are 100% commercial.
Right.
Oh, well, actually, they might not know either because the reality is a lot of paint your own pottery are buying bisque. That actually is part of their business, that they're not slip casting. They're just buying in bisque and buying in commercial glazes and underglazes. So there's
some that do slip casting and fire their own.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen those.
The industrial stuff, I will bet they're bisquing to cone 012. I do know a lot of the bisque that is being bought, it used to be produced in the States, a lot of it is coming from China. There are some major ceramic supply companies that have side hustles in selling bisqueware to paint your own, and it's all coming from China. And from what my friends who have spent a lot of time in China tell me is that the bisque temperature is 012. And that's just what everyone bisque to, which is actually perfectly fine. As we said on the show, we bisque to cone 08 all the time. So the fact that Frank's at a cone 07, I think that that's fine. That said, I have a conspiracy theory.
Another one?
Again. Oh my God. This is a trifecta.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I have thought about this for a while now, that the thing is, commercial glazes, they are intended to be consistent, right? That's why you get them, because you can brush and brush and brush, and all you're going to do is make the coating more and more even, right? And Kathy, I don't think you use a ton of brushing glazes in your studio.
No, not at all.
Yeah, because you guys have a big studio, make your own glazes. Producer Ben, you've worked in a studio. Is that commercial?
Yeah. Well, it's half and half. We do some commercial glazes and we do a lot of mix our own. But for paint a pot, because we actually do paint a pot.
Oh,
it's all commercial glaze.
Yeah. So it's intended so that people with no experience can come in and have success, right? That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thing about brushing glazes. Everybody can have their opinion on brushing glazes, and brushing glazes are great. They absolutely serve a purpose for people of different needs and different experience levels and all that. But the brushing is the thing that I really want to focus on, because brushing glazes are the same thing as what the glazes people make themselves and they dip. There is nothing different chemically about what they are doing. It is that they are adding in additives to make them brushable, because those of you who have worked with dipping glazes will know. As soon as, if you try to brush on a quote unquote dipping glaze, you dip it in the glaze and you start your brush stroke, and it won't even make the entire brush stroke before it just dries up. And then you don't complete the stroke. And the thing that they put in brushing glazes, they call them brushing agents, but really what they are is that they're water retention agents. They just make it so that you can brush and brush and brush, but the bisqueware doesn't draw in the water. So it just can keep brushing and brushing. Well, my conspiracy theory is that although I don't like higher bisque temperatures, they do make sense for brushing glazes, because the brushing glazes are trying to combat the porosity that clay bodies have. Because remember, this is how glazes dry. The water is drawn into the clay body through capillary suction. That's why glaze application dries instantly. And the brushing agents combat that. So they want to make sure that the glazes are as brushable as possible. Well, what's the best way to combat that in your bisqueware? Reduce the absorption rate. So if you bisque hotter, you're going to have less absorption in your bisqueware, and it will be inherently more brushable, because you're not fighting against the bisqueware drawing as much water in. And I've seen it that a clay that's bisque to cone 08 can have 20% absorption, and the same clay body bisque to cone 04 can have 12% absorption. An 8% decrease, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a massive amount. 2% is a massive change in absorption. So by bisquing hotter for these brushing glazes, it does make them more brushable.
But aren't you opening yourself up to glaze flaws?
Yes.
Yeah.
And therein lies the challenge. And the thing that really drives me crazy is that you're opening yourself up to problems. And I've seen a lot of people confront this with the really crazy theories about what's actually going on by bisquing hotter. And the number one thing I see is people saying that the bisque is cleaner when you fire it hotter. That is so untrue. It's not even funny. I have to grit my teeth.
Ooh, he's gritting his teeth, people. Watch out.
We're just talking about this at a live workshop I did recently. You don't burn out anything more by bisquing hotter. Everything that is going to be quote unquote burned out of your clay body is gone really by cone 020, but absolutely by cone 012. On top of it, the real kicker is you get these people that talk about, oh, you have to leave the ports open or the bungs out to get oxygen into your bisque. No, you don't. The chemical reactions that are going to happen in your clay body are going to happen based on heat, not based on oxygen. It's not a combustion reaction, you people. It's just what things will do when you get them hot. And so those concepts are all wrong that the bisque is going to be cleaner. But what you do get if you bisque it hotter is reduced absorption. And again, we can scientifically prove this. Just look at our commercial clay profiling. It's all in that data. That when you bisque it hotter, the absorption rates go down, and then brushable glazes are more brushable. And that is a huge advantage for that product. It's also a huge disadvantage if you are dipping your glazes that you made yourself. And that is a completely different contrast in what those two different temperatures are, which is why we're making our own glazes. We're not making brushable glazes, so we always advocate cone 08. If you're doing only brushing glazes, is cone 04 bisquing the worst thing in the world? There are still issues with it because absorption rates change when you start to reduce your absorption rates, and that's not great, but I get the logic of it. I'm not saying it's the right answer. I'm still a cone 08 person, but I at least get the logic, and I will definitely give it that as a value. But that said, Frank, you're fine at 07. Just keep 07.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I just like it's like anybody who fires to anything but 04, 06, 6, 10, you know. It's like
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening past the word bung. I'm sorry.
That's my special lady, you guys. Favorite thing she heard today was the word bung. There we go. Keep it classy, Rose.
I just said I wasn't listening.
Well, that's pretty par for the course.
Normal. Yeah. I got all my laundry folded during that last question. It's great. I found those socks I was missing. It's fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Oh, sure. I got to go back to Australia, you guys. Aussies, open the door. I'm coming.
Oh, we're sending them back. Awesome, y'all. All right. Well, we have run out of time, believe it or not. So until we see each other again, Matt and Rose, see you later.
Good times, y'all.
Bye, Kathy.
Well, folks, that's it for this week's episode of For Flux Sake. I'd like to thank the listeners who submitted questions this week. And if you want your question answered on the show, shoot us an email at ForFluxSakePodcast@gmail.com. So join us next time. And when in your studio, remember what Rose always says.
Always remember to test, test, test. This is a test of the emergency glaze system. Beep. Hey, For Flux Sake friends, wish you could hang with us a little more each month? Well, you can come join us at our For Flux Sake fan club on Patreon. You'll get discounts on our new merch, chances to chat with us during live hangouts, and extra episodes just for you. Find us at patreon.com/ForFluxSakePodcast. We'd love to see you there.